Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Inna Allah yuhibbu alladhina yuqatiluna fi sabilihi saffan ka'annahum bunyanun marsusun. Allah loves those who fight in His cause or in His way like they are solid cemented structure, like each brick supporting the foundation of the building, each arm swinging in the way of Allah as a protection against the onslaught of the enemies of Islam. So today's talk is one more mountain to climb. Well, technically, if it was full, it would be one more mountain to climb, one more river to cross. This, of course, comes from the old Negro stuff, but if you're a Negro, you might as well admit it. I mean, after all, a lot of people see when we were younger, most people was ashamed of that old stuff. Because when you're young, you're full of fire and you just want to go beat up everybody and stuff like that. But one thing about it, the older you get, the more you realize how strong our people was and basically how good they were. I mean, when you look at the way people are now, the people are nasty, nasty. Now, I just tell you the truth. The people nowadays, that's the only thing I can think of, is they're nasty. Their leaders are nasty. Their idols are nasty. They just, that's the best thing I can talk about it. Not nasty like najis, but it's nasty behavior, nasty attitudes. You know, it's unbelievable. In this discussion, one more mountain to climb, one more river to cross. This was from the October 2002 when we had our last national seminar. And that national seminar was to be the springboard for where we were headed at that time. At that time, we were well organized. We had, I would say, 8 functional centers in the U.S. Each one of them was packed with people. And so, like it was packed here, I would say we had, amongst African Americans, we definitely had the biggest Eid here in those days, right here. And it was a well-known Eid that people liked to come, and their main thing is they wanted to come get some Negro eggs. Right, and that's the way it was. Everybody everything was good, but they wanted to, make sure they got some Negro eggs. Now, a lot of the foreigners that used to come, because the Iranians would come, African Americans, everybody. So it was some, I don't call it healthy eating people, but I told them all, I say, if you come over to our joint, you're going to get loaded down with butter. It's going to be pounds of butter. And I could see some of, especially some of the ladies that are immigrants trying to eat like boss man, that healthy stuff. I said, no, one day I said, we have waffles over there and everybody just going to not only with syrup, but I mean butter. I said, and you can't get away from it because it's in the food that I already cooked and they're going to put more on it. That's the way it is. So just decide that one day you're going to overload on all of that stuff that make food taste good, like butter, and a lot of the sauce we have some not only vegetable fats in it, but a little bit of something left over from something, and we cook it all in there, and it makes the gravy just delicious. Well, I don't eat it, but everybody pretend like it's really pretty good. They be making like it's good. So, like if we have turkey, uh, we'll ground up some of the turkey skin and some of the little blackish meat. In other words, you might not really, you can definitely taste it, but you could see that it have a certain consistency. And so all the juice from the turkey, we put it in the blender, you know what I mean, and blend it up. So when you put, and even the other stuff like it just has. So anyway, that's the way we do with all our food. In other words, it has, you just have to get your exercise in, and have a day of fast one day after you eat. But anything you eat here is going to have stuff in it that makes the food taste good. You can tell when this is all right. And one of the greatest transmitters of taste is fat, like milk fat, butter, all that stuff. That makes food. You know what you're eating. Anyway, so one more mountain to climb, one more river to cross was a theme that we had. That this was from October 2002. Let's say 20 years ago, or 19, 20 years ago. And we talked about some of the books that we had read that were visionary, Lost Horizons. It talks about a place called Shangri-La. This is a mythical place, Everything is all right there. People live a long time. People, in fact, one of my favorite old movies, I watch it every now and then, is Lost Horizons, 1937, Ronald Coleman, that guy that had everything. He was going to be in the British Foreign Service, the next guy to going to be, and he was a down-to-earth guy, but he had wrote some books. He had some ideas, visionary ideas. So the people at Shangri-La got hold to some of his books, because at Shangri-La, they got all the books. Like now, it would be all the books, all the CDs on civilization. And they were sure of one thing there, that this world at that time, that's 1937, is going to collapse, which it did 2-3 years later. Boy, look at here. It was on a roll downhill. But they said man is going to collapse in an orgy of whatever it was. And when that time passed, then there should be a new dispensation. So they had collected all the writings and historical stuff and took them way back in the Mount Tibet, somewhere like that, where you couldn't hardly get in there. And then when you got in there, although it was way up in the mountains, it was nice, the weather was nice and all kind of stuff. But that's, when they talk about Shangri-La, they're talking about those types of places. And this is something that's always been a part of the human being. And back in Greek times and in African times before that, utopia, it just means good place. It don't mean everything is perfect there, but it's a good place. Let's say it's 80% good, 10%, and a few percentage not so. But generally, it's all right. So, what was this place? This place was the Wizard of Oz, where the little girl clicked the toes and went to run somewhere. Judy Garland. They had other stuff that didn't make any difference to the The old Tin Man needed oil on his arm, and the lion was scaredified, And and the man behind this, it was behind the thing. He had a big microphone. He was playing like the great Oogly Boogly, Bwana and Cuba, they'd call him over the way. Big Bwana, In Cuba, Kabir, Bwana in Cuba. Swahili is 50% Arabic, 50-50. So Bwana in Cuba. By the way, Bwana in Cuba means a big personality or almost God, Bwana in Cuba, big Bwana. And they call everybody, oh, Bwana this, Bwana that, that's me and you. But Bwana in Cuba, that's big deal. The Wizard of Oz, the guy back there pretending, speaking in that time, a big microphone, everybody do this, everybody. And so we live in a world, now those are like somewhere over the rainbow has something in it, a land that I heard of once in a lullaby. These are bedtime stories that you tell little children that haven't experienced much. Their mind can dream. Well, one of the best things in the world is they call the kids, Latinos that come over here, they call them dreamers. They call them dreamers because it's like we don't particularly appreciate it, but they get here like you have to live overseas to understand why they sell everything they got. And why would people in Africa go across the Mediterranean Sea so stuck together that they can't move? If the boat go down, they're desert people and they can't swim. Now, I wouldn't go out on the water if I couldn't swim. I just wouldn't do it. But they don't mind. What's so hopeful over there and what's so depressing where they just left that they'll go across a whole sea, Mediterranean, in the middle, a whole sea, and they don't know like the weather's going to change and start rocking the boat. And if you rock them boats and everybody's full, once it go up and dip like that, it's going to turn over because there's too many people on there. They're going to shift a little and then over they go. And can't swim? This is insanity. But our people do that. Why? Why are they doing that? Something got to be bad back there. And then down in Mexico, everybody used to be running there from Mexico, but now they're going through Mexico, coming up here from all down the way. In Big Deep Throat, they said, follow the money. So everybody knows where's all the money at in the world. It's up here, well, as far as they're concerned. So if you want to keep them down there, just send a few $1 billion every now and then down and make sure they have access to getting it, not the king or the president and his crew, right? Everybody done thought of that except this system. If you want to keep everybody up here, you're going to spend 10 times as much trying to keep them out. And you're going to try to fix the wage, and you can't fix the wage imbalances with them coming across, and they're going to work for $1 a week or $2. They're going to work more than that. I mean, it's going to be like several dollars. But then you're an illegal alien. So you go out and pick all the beans and the guy for a month, and the guy tell you, well, I ain't got no money. You gonna go to the police and tell them the farmer, which the farmer and the police is working hand in hand together. The big farmer in Central Valley in California, you think the sheriff and them not in it together? That's just like the chain gangs down south and the Negro going to jail every other day. Because the sheriff need workers to pick the big white man's cotton. Because he's going to give the sheriff, okay, we'll give you 50 cents a day for them niggas. So you put 25 cents in the county box, and shoot, you keep another 25 cents yourself. And send all them niggas in there. So the sheriff, the more niggas, the more African Americans he have, right? So what is he going to do? He's going to have a program. It's going to be institutionalized that every vagrant, every guy that's walking slower than 15 miles an hour is going to jail. Why? Shoot, it's a big win. For who? For Boss Man.